Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining me and the chat here again for another live Q&A session here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and we get together every week to talk about a topic or two. And today's topic is audiobook scams. And not just from the narrator perspective, but from the authors as well. Because I do have authors who watch my channel for audiobook production information. So we're going to be looking at it from both sides for my viewership. So if you're not new here, every week we have a new poll. And the poll, of course, is what we're talking about today. And your responses to the poll kind of guide the conversation into what I should most focus on within this hour that we have together live for this Q&A session. So today's poll is, what concerns you most when starting or considering a audiobook project? And it looks like, get your votes in. There's some more votes coming in. So we have 11 votes so far. 9% of you said verifying who owns the book, which is a definite concern, and that is something that you should integrate into vetting the author, whomever you're talking to. Vetting them in the very beginning is one of the most important things. It should be part of your process before you even start a book. But I'm not tangenting on that yet. 23% of you said protecting my voice or manuscript, understandable. 46% of you said knowing if the client is legit, and 23% of you said understanding contracts and rights, and knowing if the client and or narrator is legit, really, for you authors watching. All right, so it looks like, okay, so how do we know if someone is who they say they are? That's a tough one. I think in this day and age with any audiobook production, there always has been a little bit of gumshoe. There has to be a little bit of Scooby-Doo going on before you agree to start an audiobook project. And now in today's world, where authors are having their manuscripts, they're sending their books out for ARC reading, beta testing, all these things, and they're being stolen and then uploaded into pirate sites or being used to train AI, being stolen and, someone else claiming that it's their work. I mean, authors are under just as much pressure as we, the audiobook narrator. So the research has to be done on either side, and I would fully expect an author to ask me as many questions as I am asking them in that awkward first stage of negotiations, right? And you should have those conversations. Unfortunately, that's just the state of the world that we're in, right? To protect your time, to protect your work, protect your intellectual property when it's a manuscript, your intellectual property as an audiobook narrator, and protect your voice. So we have to do a little extra vetting and a little extra research, and we'll talk about some of the ways that you can do that today. And if you're in the chat and you have a great tip or something that you have done, if you're an audiobook narrator or an author and you have something to share, please do that, because these conversations are not meant to be just me being a talking head. These are conversations. I mean, albeit there's a lot of you watching me and I'm just talking, but if you have something to share, then please put it in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, then please share your insight with us, and I will read it off. That way, everybody's a little better educated after today, hopefully. All right. So what I do, and we'll get to the comments here in a minute, what I do, I've integrated Zoom calls into my research process with authors. When I first started, this was, like 8 years ago, I started to, and I've always been one of these people who trusts but verifies. I've always been one of these people. So I got into the habit very early of doing a little extra research on someone. And I'm not going to say that every single interaction with someone has gone perfectly. I have been scammed. Everybody has. You just don't know you can't recognize all the red flags until you're presented with them, or until you've met enough people who have shared enough stories where you start to pick up on these things. So don't feel bad if you have been scammed. It's happened to all of us in some way, shape, or form. But what we're going to talk about today will hopefully, highlight or illuminate some red flags for you. But anyway, back to my story. Whenever somebody would reach out to me, clue number one, let's just say ACX, because everybody's familiar with ACX. Let's just say somebody reaches out to you. Clue number one, is the person that you're talking to, the name matches the name on the manuscript? If no, ask them what is their relation to the author. It's okay to ask that question. In fact, it's a very smart business practice, right? It's almost expected. If I was the author, I would respect that person for asking me that question, for verifying that I am who I say I am, right? Or that you're doing your due diligence as a good business practice. There's nothing wrong with asking that question. And I have to ask that question a lot. And sometimes you'll get an answer that, oh, this is a textbook. I don't have time to read the book, so I just want someone to narrate it for me. Sorry, we cannot do that. That is infringement of copyright. I can't do that, right? Or they'll say, I'm a independent publisher, or I'm a third-party person who is like an assistant of sorts. I am the liaison. I'm trying to help this author. This author has hired me to find a narrator for them and to do all of this stuff. In those cases, I'll say, okay, great, send me the manuscript. And while they're doing that, I will research the author on my own. I will find their website, find their socials, reach out to the author directly just to confirm that this is in fact what is happening. And if this person is not who they say they are, then you just saved yourself and the author a whole lot of trouble and time, because hopefully they can get in and squash that on their end, and you just put on your cape and you're the hero for the day because you brought something to someone's attention that is not a good thing, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does take a little bit of extra time, and that in the end is worth it. If it saves you and the author all kinds of trouble and time in the future, why not spend the extra 5 minutes to reach out to someone to do a little research, right? Excuse me. I'm not warmed up yet this morning. I'm doing a lot of editing today. All right. So what's the next thing I do? Oh, this is another thing. Once you get past the point where you have verified the person as much as you can, and you've done some research, and you're comfortable moving forward, I would always incorporate a Zoom call, 10-minute Zoom call, just to meet them face to face. That way, they, as the author or representative of this author, can see that you are in fact a real person. They can hear your voice. They can see you moving. They know they're not getting an AI voice in their audiobook. And that is a big concern. It's a big concern right now for authors. I think that is one of the number one questions I get asked by an author. Because there's, of course, accompanying the usual questions of, can you send me samples of work you've done before, those kinds of things. But then they'll also ask, this is a real human voice, right? This isn't an AI voice, right? Having a Zoom call sort of squishes that. You get to see they are who they say they are anyway. And hopefully by that time, you've seen pictures of the author when you've done your due diligence, either on their socials or their website or wherever you did your Scooby-Dooing. And you can verify that that is them. You can spend that time asking questions. What parts of this? Do you want any of the, the dedication, the about the author, all of that front and back matter stuff that sometimes is included in an audiobook? You can ask about character voices, if there are some, if it's fiction, what kind of pace or tone. You can eliminate a lot of future questions just by having a quick 10-minute Zoom call, right? And if you're on platforms like Fiverr or Upwork, you can add that as an add-on. And you actually have to on Fiverr. You can't have, unless you're both business clients, there's some loopholes to that, of course. But if they're reaching out to you and they say, hey, I'd like to have a Zoom call, you have to add it on as part of the order. The order has to be in place with a Zoom call attached to it in order to do that. Just FYI. Sorry, just seeing some stuff on Instagram. Okay. Let's see. Knowing if the client is legit. Verifying who owns the book. I mean, apart from doing your due diligence and researching the author, I even go so far as to research the person when they say they are a third party, when they are the liaison, the assistant, the whatever. I will also look them up. If they say they're part of a publishing company, I will look up that publishing company. Don't click links. If that person sends you a link, oh yeah, check out my company, and you're still kind of like, I don't know, I'm still kind of checking this out, don't click any links. Just copy, maybe not even copy, but type in their business name into Google and see what comes up. If it's just a little bit off, I had someone telling me this story I think it was just yesterday. The name was the same, but it was just a little bit different, meaning it was like limited instead of co or something like that. And the actual company didn't exist. And this person was afraid that their voice was going to be stolen for AI purposes, and this person really wasn't who they said they were. So by spending an extra 5 to 10 minutes and just doing a little bit of this research on both ends, right? If you're an author and you have an audiobook narrator reaching out to you, most of us are on social media too, so to promote our businesses. So finding us should be relatively easy. Finding a website for the audiobook narrator should be relatively easy. These are businesses we run just like any other business. We should be easy to find. And if you're an audiobook narrator and you don't have these things, you should really consider having them, because it does add to your credibility. It makes you easier to find information on, easier to contact you and start a project, right? So you should have an audiobook narrator website, and as well as social media. At least, posting some stuff. I mean, making the world aware of who you are and what you do is what you should be doing on social media. Let's see. Protecting my voice or manuscript. I think, in my experience, what I have seen some authors do, I've actually had, and mind you, I'm about 300 audiobooks produced at this point, and I think maybe 2, 3, less than 5, let's just say less than 5 of those have been authors who wanted me to sign an NDA before even sending me the manuscript, which I understand. And I think this was a few years ago, and I think in the back of my mind, like, this is a little bit overkill. But in today's age, I totally understand that. I totally get that. So that could be something that you could do. I've also seen manuscripts that were completely watermarked. I've seen manuscripts that were password protected. But I think password protected doesn't really help once that person has the password. So in retrospect, that's probably not a solid choice. But what else could you do to protect your manuscript? Ultimately, and this goes for voice actors too, because I saw something about this in the chat. Once your IP is out in the world, whether it's your manuscript, your prose in any way, shape, or form, or your voice, if someone wanted to, they could. If they wanted to take it, they could. The only thing that we can do is really try our best to protect it. And we've talked about this before here on my channel, about ways to protect yourself as an audiobook narrator or a voice actor. Protecting yourself through auditions, because once you send an audition out into the world to whomever you're sending it to, we don't really know, if it's a legit client, if they're actually going to do what they said they're going to do with it. And in many cases, it's show it to my team or show it to my client, right? Or add it to a pool of others that I'm considering. Or if they're going to take it and just use it to train an AI model with. And what we came up with in that discussion was maybe perhaps adding a watermark to your audition. Absolutely 100% don't ever give them the entire script. Maybe give them a portion of it. That way, this is something that I've done forever, and I heard a long time ago, is that if they give you a script for the sample, don't read the entirety of it, especially if it reads like it's a full marketing kind of if it's like marketing copy. Don't, narrate just a piece of it. That way they don't have the whole thing free and ready to go and use, right? I guess it also depends on what platform you're on, but your gut will tell you most of the time. If your spidey senses are tingling, there's probably a reason for that, right? But I think some of these practices, especially for audiobook narration, when you're first in those negotiation, the very first stages of negotiation or getting to know you or vetting the person, these extra steps are going to save you a whole lot of time. Now, for audiobook narrators, again, if you're on ACX, another thing that you can do is, because ACX is a sister company of Amazon, it's the same umbrella company, they're on the job listing itself, on the audition listing itself, you can click on the title to view it on Amazon. So you could see it there. You could get a little bit more information about the author. Authors typically have an About Me page or an author page on Amazon. You can go and look at the listing. You can see if they've produced any other books. If this is their first book, you have their name now. You can go and look at them on social media. Are they talking about this book? Are they excited about writing this book? Do they have any other books that they've done in their catalog that are perhaps under a different name? Maybe that different name is a pen name, and that is the name they're contacting you on. So there's a lot that you can learn and understand by just doing a little bit of research and finding out more about this person. Because that happens a lot. If you have a writer who's skilled at writing, loves to write, and has just boundless imagination and is just cranking out short little books, but some of them are a little bit more on the spicy side, they might use a pen name for those, right? So you might come across somebody who has a lot of books under multiple even different names, but you can see that that is all them, right? So just do a little research and you'll learn a lot in most cases by just doing that. Understanding contracts and rights. In ACX, every time that you do or start an audiobook project, there is a contract attached to it. You agree to the contract, and that's when the production starts. If you're doing audiobook production off of a platform like ACX, there are actually downloadable contracts that you can get off of ACX that are editable. Such a fun word, editable. And you can add your name as the narrator. You can change it up for however you want to. And you don't have to use the whole thing verbatim, because I think there might be some additional sections in there pertaining directly to ACX, but you can edit it to match whatever platform that you're on or platforms the client is distributing to. And you can also add an AI writer, which we've also talked about here. I think on that same, actually a few live streams, we talked about an AI writer. You could go to Nava, N-A-V-A-A, N-A-V-A. Oh my God, I just had a brain fart. Nava.org, I believe. Oh my gosh. Google it. The National Association of Voice Actors. They have a AI writer that you can download and add as sort of like an addendum to this contract that basically states the client agrees to not use your voice for any kind of AI duplication, machine learning, anything of that nature. And I would highly recommend adding one of those to the contract. If you receive a contract from a client, an author, whomever you're working with, make sure that you read it. Make sure that you read it. I've had a couple of times where what I had received as a contract from a client was just a general non-disclosure agreement, agreeing to allow them to sign my name to things which were completely unnecessary. And when I brought that up, they said, oh my gosh, this is just what I was given. I didn't read through it because, of course, they're the third party. So I didn't agree to sign it because it was just really that one line that I am giving them permission to sign my name to whatever documentation in the future. I was like, why would you need that? Even though it was the wrong form or whatever it was, they couldn't produce the correct one. And so that was when I said, okay, because I gave them the benefit of the doubt, because that happens. Sometimes wrong forms get sent. I get it. I've done it, right? I think we all probably have. But if you can't fix it or are unwilling to fix it and send the right one, then that's a problem. And it was at that point where I said, I'm sorry, I'm just not comfortable with this, right? Or maybe it is an audiobook contract, but there's something in it that just doesn't jive with you. You, as the business owner, can say, hey, I'd like to change this, or I'm not too sure about this line. Can we come back and take another look at this? Right? Those are things that you can do. Same thing as if you're an author with an audiobook narrator, read the contract. Make sure that you understand it. And if you have any questions, then ask. I know we're so accustomed to just reading through terms of service. We don't even read them anymore. We just click the box and on we go, right? So that way we can get to what we came to the site to do. But it really is worth the extra, just at least skim through it. At the very least, skim through it. Especially on platforms now where AI is running the show, basically, there could be little caveats in there. There could be a little fine print in there that says, by agreeing to this terms of service, you're also agreeing to let us use your digital assets in whatever shape, form, for whatever we deem necessary. And you know what I mean? So take the time to read this stuff. It's important. Side note, side tangent. We'll call it a side tangent. All right, let's get over to the comments because I want to address, I want to get to actual questions. So if you have a question or if you have some insight, something that you have done, something you've experienced, please share it with the rest of us. That way everyone, again, is watching is better educated for it. Matthew's here. Hey, Matthew. Greetings from Tennessee. I put knowing if a client is legit because every time I get a call back from an audition, I feel like there's no way it's real. And then he continues. So far, they have all been real, though. So next time I audition, I tell the imposter monster to go away. Yes, I would not treat every client as a potential criminal. And I know that you could sort of kind of feel that way after maybe being taken or someone attempting to take advantage, a time or two or 3 or 10. I get that. I always go with the trust but verify, right? Give the person you're speaking to the benefit of the doubt, unless it's just blatantly first message, like message me on Telegram to move forward. That's blatantly a scam. Nobody needs to do that. ACX is just fine for communication, just fine for what we need to do on this platform, right? Or even off ACX with personal emails and things like that. There's no need to go to Telegram or WhatsApp, or there's no need for that. So that's usually an immediate red flag. But I get the imposter syndrome. I would treat everyone as a new, fresh case. It's a new, fresh case to solve. This person is not unlike any other that I have ever met. I need to do my due diligence with this person, just like I have with everyone else preceding. And if it meets all my criteria for, 2 thumbs up, then we move forward with the Zoom call, right? And this is most of the time with audiobooks, not so much every voice acting job, because I mean, it might be a thing in the future. I mean, with AI just kind of running rampant everywhere, it could be a thing. But for audiobooks, absolutely. That's the very time-consuming and usually expensive investment that would benefit for both sides, for just having a 10-minute conversation via Zoom. Sage is here. Hey, Sage. Good afternoon, everyone. I picked Understanding Contracts and Rights. Although I would have picked all of the above if it were an option. I don't do that on purpose because I'm trying to find out exactly which aspect is the most concerning, even though they all are, to be fair. But I want to know what we need to sort of focus on. And as of right now, it looks like the biggest concern at 59% is knowing if the client is legit. I'm still fairly new at this, and I haven't had paid work yet. Sage, how long have you been? Okay. Here we go. Everybody's like, oh, here she goes. Sage, you've been in my live streams for how long? How long have you been watching my live streams? How long have you been part of our community? You're not still fairly new. You need to just get out there and get started. Get out there and get started. Life this past year really got away from me due to my shoulder injury last year, and as a result, my forward momentum was basically put on the back burner as a result. Okay, I'll grant you a boon, but you're getting out there. Recently upgraded to core. I know. So I'm looking at what the next steps are for me and getting going finally. Good. I'm proud of you. Taking that bull by the horns. Go get it, Sage. Review Exchange Group says, I've had about 27 books published through ACX. Only about 22 remain. For me, about 20% were seized in my first 18 months or so. These days, I try and pick my authors more carefully. Yes, what they mean by that is that there was something within either the copy or the narration, usually something about the manuscript had triggered ACX's quality control, right? And so they were removed. However, this doesn't always mean that the author was not who they said they were. It doesn't always mean that the book was completely written by AI. It doesn't mean that someone's work was stolen. Because we have solid proof through Academy Voices, our audiobook production company, that sometimes their security protocol AI, and as we know, as we've discovered, really over the past year, that all AI detection tools are not accurate. They're not 100% accurate. So we have an author, just namely an Academy Voices, who brought all 80 something of his books over to us from ACX because ACX flagged one of his books and removed him and all of his catalog from Audible because there was something somewhere, and he couldn't even put his finger on it, that they deemed as, this needs to be removed, and all of the other 80 something of his books. So it does happen, unfortunately. It doesn't necessarily mean that the author, again, is, doing something they're not supposed to be or whatever it is. It could happen for many reasons. I've had it happen to me. I don't know a single audiobook narrator that hasn't had a book removed for some reason or another. And then also keep in mind, I don't know how long. Okay, you said within your first 18 months, but also keep in mind that the contracts for distribution on Audible is only 7 years. So if you've been doing this for longer than that and your books start disappearing, it's probably because the contract's up and the author decided to not renew with Audible. So just keep that in mind too. Sage asks, is that due to being AI generated or because they weren't the real rights holder? And that happens too. And that's a good thing. when that happens. It doesn't mean that you were duped. It doesn't mean anything bad about you. It just means that all your criteria for, all your green flags were met. It doesn't make you any less of a good person, or, it doesn't mean that you're bad or you suck or whatever. Whatever negative thing you want to say about yourself, that doesn't mean that that's true. Books get removed for a myriad of reasons that we probably never know, right? Abe says, good morning, all from Nashville. I voted most worried about protecting my voice because, let's face it, once that book is out there, nothing is stopping somebody from stealing it. 100%. The same could be said for all of my videos on YouTube. The same could be said for all of your content on social media. Anywhere in reality, and there really isn't a way to stop it until more regulations are put in place. But the technology, let's be real, the technology is outpacing every kind of regulation that we could put in place right now. So all we can do is just do our best to protect ourselves as best we can, and do, as we're talking about today, as much due diligence as we can from both sides. Rustic Hillbilly is here. Good morning. Good morning to you. Let's see. Pamela's here. Hey, Pamela. Morning from Washington State. Natalie's here. Good morning, Natalie. I picked it knowing if the client is legit. It makes me nervous that you can put so much time and effort into the book and then not get paid if it's taken down by ACX, if royalty share. Yes. And again, that doesn't always mean that the author was not legit. Probably never know, unless you reached out to the author directly and said, hey, what happened? You can do that. If all of your qualifications were satisfied, and you're satisfied that you were talking to the actual author, find them on social media, find their website and say, hey, I saw what happened. What happened? I don't even know if there's like an appeals process. Maybe there is. Maybe we can look at reaching out to somebody and maybe make an appeal. Right? Don't just lay down and let that happen. Fight it if you think it was legit. Ryan says, I honestly don't know how to answer. I don't worry about it too much anymore because I figure there isn't much I can do about most things. Protecting my voice from AI is one thing that I voted for. 100%. 100%. So if there's somebody in the chat, if you're watching on Instagram, if you're on YouTube, if you have an idea, please share it. Please share it. Or if you're an author watching, and if there's something that you've done, a step that you've included in your vetting process for an audiobook narrator, please share that. Good morning, Kat. Good to see you. Review Exchange Group says some authors turned out to not be the rights holders, and a couple other are disappeared without a trace. Interesting. So I feel your pain there, because I've been in the same place. I've found myself in a couple of times where I was just too busy, and my gut said everything's fine. You haven't had any issues with scams for a while. This guy, it's fine. And it turned out to not be fine. But I didn't take the time to do my due diligence and, do at least the minimum amount of research on them first. But it happens. You could even go through the whole process, even have the Zoom call, and then still have the book removed for some reason or another. But I find that when I go through the whole process of at the very least, researching the author, checking out their social media, checking out their website, I want to see, are they talking about this book? Are they talking about, the author's struggles of writing the book, of, spending hours and hours and hours in editing? And is there any of that kind of content on their social media platforms? Do they have a website? I would imagine an author would have a website. I mean, if you're an author watching, tell me, let me know if I'm wrong in that. But I would think that if you're an author writing a book and you had readers who wanted to reach out to you, or perhaps you wrote a book to promote your business, you're definitely going to have a website. Authors sell their books, their physical books, on their website. So I would imagine that they would have a website and a contact me page. Then you could just send a simple message saying, hey, I was just reached out to on ACX about producing an audiobook production or an audiobook version of your book by a person. You don't even have to say their name. A person reached out to me. And I just wanted to just double check with you if this is in fact the case. Was this initiated by you? Do you know someone or did you hire someone to help you? Whatever the case was. Or even if it's them reaching out to you, you could still verify, hey, somebody with your name reached out to me on ACX. I just wanted to make sure that this was in fact you. I'm not trying to be creepy or anything, but I just want to make sure because, history has shown that some of these things kind of happen, and I wanted to make sure that this is in fact you. And I think they would appreciate that. If it wasn't, they would like to know, that that's happening. Smooth Stone says, great morning from thundery Florida. What's sad, Matthew? That his books were removed? Yeah, for sure. Joy is here, the epitome of joy. Joy, how you feeling, Joy? I'm concerned about both how to be able to tell if a client is legit, and seeing as how I haven't won an audiobook audition, the contracts. Does she continue down here somewhere? I don't see where you continue, Joy. How about if a client is legit? Well, Joy, we've actually gone through this quite a few times. I know you've been in the group with with me and with Anthony for quite some time. I think I have to say, and here we go, Joy, I think you're doubting yourself. You're overthinking too much. I think your spidey senses will tell you at this point. You've had so much of this kind of information thrown at you over the course of the last at least year that you probably know. And I think you just need to trust your instincts, Joy. Trust your instincts. Jen is waving from Ohio. Hi, Jen. Way over there. Smooth says, I've never even considered this as a reality. Which part? Venus says, I send them an email thanking them for choosing me and then go into my preference and AI writer questions. When they respond is when I find out who the rights holder is. Then I start my research process. That's good. I think there was somebody in our group, I want to say it was Erica, maybe not. But she sends a whole welcome package. And I think that's at the start of the production, right? Asking all of the questions, I think. When she asks all the questions about, what's your preferred tone, pace, this is the process of producing an audiobook. It sort of addresses all the questions that authors typically have up front, along with the contract and the writer and all of those things. And I think that's a brilliant idea. But now I'm wondering if we should have a questionnaire or something that we can send to a potential client up front that addresses all of these concerns. Would you be open to having a Zoom call? If you are not, what is your relationship to the author? That may be overkill. I mean, from an author's perspective, I would be this is my blood, sweat, and tears. This is my joy. Here, this is my audiobook, and I'm tentatively trusting you with it. And then I get a questionnaire about, who I am, and am I real, and am I, that might be a little off-putting, I would think, to me, but I could be wrong. They might respect it. They might say, hey, I had one for you before we started this, before excuse me, before I handed off my manuscript, maybe they send you a questionnaire. You know, maybe it's too much. Maybe it's not. I guess that's the question. I guess you just sort of have to, like I said before, every new client is a new, fresh case. So everyone is going to be different and individual, and probably instead of going down this direct path, you might go this path and then, you know, hard right to this path. There could be, everyone's going to be different, I think. Looking over at Instagram. Voxy Jennifer says, oh, it's Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer. You came up with Voxy Jennifer James as your new name for all your voice acting stuff. That's awesome. Was this last live that we were talking about your potential new name? Excuse me. Or the live before? It was recently. Maybe it was last week. So, I know. I couldn't say Voxbox out loud without giggling. I totally get that. So, Voxy Jennifer James. I like it. I like it. I like it. Thumbs up. Great job. Good choice. Review Exchange Group says, Angela, do you find that a high percentage of authors seeking auditions today do not use their real name, a pen name? I was surprised how common that is. I do ask for phone and real email addresses before I start. That might actually be a good practice to maybe, you know, include that if you have a space for that in your contract, perhaps. Or in your case, if you're asking for that information up front, that's probably not a bad idea. You could even ask for their website or a link to wherever they have their catalog. But then again, I would be leery on clicking links, period, end of story. I don't click links. So if it's on, like, I don't know. I see I'm going down a whole new rabbit hole now. But that might not be a bad idea. And yes, there's a big percentage of authors who are, for whatever reason, maybe they don't want their family or somebody to know that they are writing a book. Maybe because it's, you know, controversial topic or something that they feel could have repercussions to them. Maybe it's really, really spicy. Maybe there's many reasons for having a pen name. That doesn't make them a bad person. It's the same as if, you know, my name is Angela Olfest, but my moniker is VoiceOver Angela. It's the same kind of thing. Or you having a pseudonym if you're a spicy audiobook narrator but want to have those two personas, right? You want to do the vanilla stuff with your name and then do the spicy stuff with a pseudonym. It's the same thing. So you can't automatically think that that's a bad thing, right? But trust but verify. Trust but verify. Parasani says, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to you. Matthew says you could also sign up for Academy Voices and they'll do the vetting for you. Yes, Academy Voices, our audiobook production company. And I think the website, last I heard, is pretty close to beta testing, if not already. So excited. You guys I can't wait for you guys to see it, the new website. It's amazing. With all the new tools, oh my God. Yes, but we don't allow, obviously we vet every single author that comes in. So there's no scams. There's none of that. We take care of all of that. It's run by humans. For humans. We don't have any kind of AI stuff. We have tools that help you with sort of like an ACX checker. We have like a positron type tool. We have a manuscript prepping tool. We have all these tools that, of course, are going to utilize AI in some way, shape, or form. But we don't use AI in the process of onboarding authors. So we know there's going to be no scams or anything like that. Review Exchange Group says, can you remind us again of the sources you use to check on book sales, rights holders, and so forth, a newsletter? There used to be Audiobook Scout, but I don't think it's around anymore. I think it went the way of the dodo. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen it in so long. So what you have to do is do the work yourself. I would use, especially if you're on like ACX, and this really goes for authors off platform too. I would, if you have their name, Google them and see what comes up. You'll usually get their website, their social media platforms. They could even have something that comes up on Amazon. If they are a legit author, they're probably selling. I mean, Amazon is, one of the major distributors. I always have trouble with that word. Why? Distribution avenues, vehicles for selling, tangible books and also like ebook copies. Barnes and Noble. I mean, just Google the person and see what comes up and see, check out their stuff. Reach out to them on their website. If we're looking for sales, that's going to be really the best place to check on sales is on Amazon. You can see their sales rank, how many reviews the book has got. If you're looking at, considering royalty share for this audiobook, you can look at all that stuff on Amazon. Natalie's narrations. Good morning. I chose knowing if the client is legit. I've only had one book removed on ACX. Don't know why. But I got per finished hour for it. I mean, that's a good thing. At least you were paid for your time. But I feel bad for the author because if it was per finished hour, that's usually a sign that it is legit. I don't know why I'm so froggy today. Jeez, excuse me. It was a rough day yesterday. Last week has been pretty rough. Lots going on. Good man. Okay. Adam says, good morning from New Orleans. So appreciative of this topic. I was just thinking to ask the group about Narrator's Hub. Any experience with them? Narrator's Hub, if I'm not mistaken, is a place. I mean, any of these places are, any of these websites that have information tailored specifically to audiobook narrators is not a bad idea just to flip through. I'm not saying that everybody is legit or correct, but if you can at least absorb all the information and then make your own educated decision about things, that's usually a good way to go. Because, everybody's got an opinion. Everybody has a way of doing things. Everybody has thoughts and perspective on certain topics and experiences with certain topics. So take it all in and then make your own educated decision on what you feel is right for you and your business. Sage says, what if we don't have a website because we don't have any paid work to show sample? It doesn't matter. Who cares if you don't have samples to show? You can make samples. You can absolutely 100% make samples. Choose a book in the public domain and just record a little sample of it and put it on your website. But you should have a website. You should have at least a one-page website, and you can have a one-page website for free with most website domain hosts like Wix. You can have a free website. It's going to have their branding on it, but who cares? It's a place for you to start, at least have a place for people to contact you. You should absolutely 100% have a website. Don't let yourself talk you out of it. Just make one. Matthew says to Sage, you can record samples from... There you go, Project Gutenberg. Don't ask me why there's a W in the middle of that word. I type for a living. That doesn't mean I'm good at it. What are you talking about? I missed something. Chris, you're late, but you brought cherry fritters, so you are excused. Nava Voices is what she was talking. Thank you, Matthew. Nava Voices. Gracias, senor. Natalie says, I'm getting so many scam telegram. I am too. This scam is old. It's an old regurgitated scam that comes around every so often when someone gets the bright idea that So this happens a lot. It comes in cycles. So you're going to continue to see it in probably different ways, shapes, forms. But by then, you'll be better educated, right? You'll just be like, whatever. So still get excited when you see a message, but then you'll know exactly how to handle it when you do get one. Report, block, delete, and move on. It's going to happen. You have to expect these things when you're making yourself available online in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I've got that right now going on one of these platforms. I'm just ignoring it. Review Exchange Group says, I like all of the above answers because I'm often concerned about everything in the ACX world, and you shouldn't be concerned about everything in the ACX world. I'm not saying ACX is the best place, most trustworthy, but you just have to take, every platform you're on anymore, it seems like you need to do some kind of due diligence. You just have to. And that's just because of the age that we're in now. But scams is definitely not a new thing. It's been around since probably the dawn of time. Someone trying to pull, the wool over someone's eyes in some way, shape, or form. It's just so much easier to do now. But it's just part of business, You just kind of have to know how to handle it and move on. Matthew says to Natalie, I wrote a small Firefox extension to highlight the word Telegram, so when I open a message, I can just immediately report spam. Hey, it's a great idea. That's a great idea. Review Exchange Group says, Angela, while I think the support people at ACX are lovely and wonderful, when something gets removed, it seems like there isn't much discussion about it. I do want to move away from exclusive. Yeah, we shouldn't be exclusive with ACX anyway. You should have many different avenues for finding work and for generating income. And ACX is just one platform. I always encourage you guys to, literally open up your Google and type in independent publishing, audiobook publishing, or anything of that nature. Publishing houses near me, audiobook publishing near me, audiobook publishing, and just see what kind of businesses come up. I found several that are brick and mortar places near me, like within 10, 15 minutes of my house, that I could physically go to, knock on the door and say, hey, I see you guys make audiobooks in here. Got any room? Need any help? Is there anything that can I get on your roster? Do you use freelancers? Do you have in-house talent? Literally, you can find so many more avenues for work if you just step outside of the ACX box. But you're right. I think there's just canned responses to most of what happens on ACX. We're sorry, you weren't selected for this book, but there's plenty of other fish in the sea. We've all seen that one, that rejection letter. We're just like, ugh. It's every response to us, every notification email is just a canned response. But you're right. But to be honest, I don't know if they have the staffing for that to give. Because again, I think it's all automated. I think their AI detector finds something off-putting somewhere, removes it, and then just notifies everybody. I have to believe that's what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I never claim to know everything. But that's just what I feel. Until a human says, hey, this isn't right. We need to fix this. That's when, the emails sort of kind of get personalized. But I think it's all automated, to be honest. Ryan says, I may be thinking about it wrong, but if I just stop stressing over stuff land, just do the work, I can get and deal with issues if they arrive. Yes. I'm telling you, that little bit of research, that little bit of extra Scooby-Doo work that you do in the beginning can save you a whole lot of brain damage later, Gluten-free donuts. I've never had a gluten-free donut. Is there such a thing? Do they make gluten-free donuts? Is that real? Wonder what they taste like. Queen has arrived. I love that, by the way, on Instagram. I got one from Vox Atelier. I need my glasses on. About Telegram. I was thinking it was a scam. I mean, that sounds familiar. I think I got one too. Anytime that it says Telegram, it's just an immediate block, report, delete, you know? Yeah. You're welcome. I love your username, by the way. I love that. I'm going to change my name to VoiceOver Queen. It's settled. Christian says to Zenaida, then why even show up? What? Why would you say that? What am I missing? Just kidding. Christian, behave yourself. Venus says to Ryan, I do the exact same thing. I refuse to try to read minds. I've got too much crap in my own to try and figure out someone else. Yeah, I know. But is 5 minutes really too much to ask? You know, just to Google somebody and just to kind of look around and get their vibe? Is it really too much to ask to potentially save you money, losing on money? Or saving somebody's work? Saving your own time? I mean, when you think about it that way, is it really worth the extra? Yeah. Heck yeah. But we just don't do it. But I guess we had to ask ourselves, why? Why would we not do it? Write yourself a business plan, like a step-by-step for every single project that you do. If we're talking audiobooks, step 1, check their name. Does it match what's on the manuscript? If, you know, like a chart. If yes, move to step 2. You know, if you have to do it that way you make yourself go through the process and check them off as you go. You know? You get what you get and you don't get upset. That's right. If you don't want to eat the dinner I made, starve. That's right. See, Jules knows what's up. Brought some donuts. You guys are the best. I actually had donuts yesterday. My son I was in a meeting. Oh my gosh. I was in a meeting with a VOJ student and my son hit a curb, blew out his tire, and she was gracious enough to like kick me off the meeting and say, go rescue your son. And I did. And anyway, while we waited for roadside to arrive, because he actually damaged 2 tires. I deal with that today after school. Anywho, we waited at a Dunkin' Donuts and had some donuts and coffee. That was fun. That was fun. All right, I see a super chat. Caesar's here. Hey, Caesar. Thank you for the super chat, Caesar. That'll help me pay for the donut yesterday. On top of the tires I got to pay for. So, for all y'all who wonder why some authors disappear, it's me. I make them disappear. I'm just kidding. Don't notify the authorities. Also, here's some cash for the pickle fund. I love you, Caesar. It's actually going to be for the tire fund today. 2 new tires on tires that I just bought probably 6 months ago. Yeah. Kids. Thank you, Caesar. Psycho Kitty Cat said, I love that username. Good morning. Since I'm also new to this, I think it makes me nervous to make sure I'm doing things right and have everything ready to start and understand. And that's totally understandable because there's so much to learn about like the actual doing, you know, the performance. Oh God. The performance, the technical side, and then having to like vet your clients on time. It's a lot. And that is why we always say to join groups, you know, get into a community, join our academy, get into a group of some sort to meet with peers and be able to ask questions and hear these kinds of conversations. So you start to pick up on little things here and there, and then you can, you know, decide how to move forward with things. Because more often than not, we don't know what we don't know until we're faced with having to know it. right? So if you're exposing yourself, no, Caesar. If you're exposing yourself to peers and, other people in the industry, you can start to pick up on these things. And when you're presented with the, what do I do here, then you'll have probably a better understanding of how to respond, Review Exchange Group says, would you take the time to reach out to every author prior to the audition or just prior to signing an agreement? I get more involved once there's a tentative offer out there. I just send the audition. If an author reaches out to me with a question, proposal, offer, contract, anything that indicates moving forward, that is when I start my research. Unless it's royalty share. If it's royalty share, I will do a lot of the research up front to make sure, because typically a scammer doesn't want to pay anything. So therefore, royalty share, right? There's nothing out of pocket for them. It's sort of, there's no lose for them, right? They win either way. So I always research them first before royalty share. Matthew says, I only reach out to Review Exchange Group. I only reach out prior to an audition if I have questions about the audition script. I wouldn't do much research unless I got picked. Yep, I would agree with that. Smooth says, I just created an all-new social media to keep VO life separate. Is that it? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's okay. But definitely still share a little bit about, who you are as a person on your voiceover social media platforms, because that definitely helps, I think. Just to see, people want to see, and I don't do it myself. I don't do enough of it myself, but I try to share a little bit about, extracurricular things, basically, like things outside of the business that I do, to share a little bit about myself, to kind of, further connect with people. So I'm not just talking head all the time, but I'm guilty of not doing enough of that myself. But definitely have them separate, because there could be some things in your personal social media from years ago that could be off-putting to a potential client. Just saying. We've all been there. Review Exchange Group says, Joy, are you doing other things besides auditions with ACX to move your VO business ahead? How about any public speaking opportunities? Poetry reading, scripture reading, library storytelling, all help. Jen, your caps lock is on. I've had 3 books removed. 1 royalty share, 2 per finished hour. No clear explanation as to why. Yeah, I think, it happens. I don't know anybody that hasn't happened to. Yes, they are donuts. Very clever. Tired, donuts, same thing. One's just a little harder to swallow. Okay. You did. You got a preemptive no, Caesar. Joy says, there are so many scams out there. Our local news gives us a list of them every week, and I'm so glad you alert us through Discord. Yeah, it's crazy. If you took the time to sit and look at all of the different methods of scamming and how they scam and what words they use and how they approach, and it's overwhelming. It really is overwhelming. It's crazy. You're right, Joy. Psycho Kitty Cat says, agreed. That's why I just joined VO's journey. So excited. Welcome to the family. That's awesome. I am so excited for you guys to see the new website. Anthony, in the last staff meeting on Friday, went through the website with us, what he had so far, and we offered some additional suggestions and had some questions and things like that. So I think he went back and revised it. And again, I think he's pretty close to the stage of beta testing the new Academy Voices website. VO's journey, from what I understand, will also be revamped, but that's in the future. Right now, we're focusing on the audiobook production company because it's growing at such a great clip that that was one of the things that we really needed to address before getting bigger, and we're just getting big. So I'm excited for you guys to see it. Plus all the tools that he created and integrated into the website. Your minds are about to be blown as I've said before, I'll say it again, ACX, count your days. Count your days, ACX. But anywho, oh, looks like my son is about to come home from school. He had a half day, and then we're gonna go put some new tires on. So excited. Yes, it's a quack. Yes, his notification is a quack. Anywho, I'm gonna go because I've got things to attend to. But thank you guys all for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the participation. It's going to be one of those days. Thanks for coming. Thanks for participating. If you're in a VO's Journey Academy Launchpad, I'll see you guys on Thursday. But until the next live stream, be careful and have fun and trust but verify. I'll see you guys later. Bye.